Welcome back to part 3. Just a disclaimer, I am not a medical professional, nor am I a psychologist. I was just a teacher and a home daycare provider for a long time. So I'm just trying to give you a little advice. To pick up where I left off, we were talking about when your kid's being a bully, when they're hitting and biting, won't share their toys, being a nuisance in class, swearing at you or others, having really bad selective hearing or losing things a lot, always oversleeping or running late, holding up routines just to try to control the day or because they're lazy or just wanting to be a jerk. Why are they doing all this stuff? Where I left off was pent-up anger or hurt, not really knowing how to release aggression. They could be experiencing chemical imbalances within their body or mental disorders of some kind like PTSD, bipolar, anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, dyslexia, learning disabilities, or they are struggling in school to fit in and they hide it by bullying. I think that, there's no way to band-aid it, but a lot of kids who are born with OCD and ADHD, they have very manic behavior where they're very sweet. They're kind of like Sour Patch Kids before they're diagnosed, and because their emotions go all over the place or when they feel out of control, they can it's like a diabetic when they're sugar dips. They get a little bit moody sometimes. And these kids with disorders like this can get moody. And that can come off as pushy or bullying behavior, or acting out, needing attention. These are all symptoms of things that could be much bigger. You would have to document it over time and take them to a medical psychologist. But if you've tried everything else and they just can't seem to get out of their funk, it could be something they can't help on their own. And could be something they outgrow later. But anyway, let's get into the last scenario before I run out of time again. When your kids are loners or spending long amounts of time alone in rooms, they don't have many friends or care about being social. If they cut themselves or self-harm, if they sleep a lot, if they're severely forgetful or don't bathe or don't seem to take care of themselves, or fight you on getting in the shower or, brushing the hair, if they fight you on basic things like that, if they have depressive, like deeply depressive moods, suicidal demeanor or comments, or a very dark and dreary natured, very morbid, kind of like in an emo phase. Why is your kid doing this? Again, there's multitudes. I'm making words up today. Multiple reasons why they do this, but I tried to narrow down the most common. Something is eating at them to the point they cannot function and they need more help being positive and thinking positively about life on themselves, and counseling may be needed. Like they could be just so stuck. Kids and adolescents, they get so fixated in their own bubble, and they could just be so fixated on the negative that sometimes just reminding them what they have to be thankful for, what they have that's good, and just doing this over, they're gonna bark at you some days like, oh, I don't want to hear it, but some days you're gonna get, you're right, thank you for saying that. That can get them out of their funks and change their attitude. Positive affirmations, writing them on their mirror, just letting them know that you're here for them, comforting, spending time with them. If your kids are struggling to make friends, they don't have to sit in a room alone. You could play a board game with them. You could go places with them. You're not there to be your kid's friend, but they shouldn't be alone all the time. Something could have happened at school or with them in a friend's group that is very damaging and traumatizing. Or they could be dealing with something embarrassing and they're too afraid or too embarrassed to ask for help. Like I know, especially with boys, around that age when they start getting erections and not being able to control it. They literally think something's wrong with them, and they are embarrassed and would rather be alone because who knows when that's going to happen. Some girls, right before they get their period, they get weird, like overactive bladder stuff or leakage. And for a kid, it's like, why do I have to pee all the time? Or maybe they have a UTI or a yeast infection. They're not going to know what that is. Or, they're just, maybe they have sweat gland issues and they're embarrassed about their own body odor and they don't know how to say, Mom, Dad, regular shampoo isn't working, regular deodorant isn't working. Maybe they are getting pubic hair and they don't know about pubic hair and they don't know how to ask and they're in their room, Googling stuff. Or we have to be clear on this because this is, I say, a rite of passage because man or a woman at a certain age, they are going to explore their own bodies. They're going to spend some time looking at themselves and touching themselves, and I'm not going to go into it further, but a lot of teen boys, preteen boys, they're behind closed doors because they're doing things they don't want you to know about, which is very natural and common for boys. They could be, looking at porn and stuff or have magazines, check their browser. I don't know. It could be that. That's one solid way to find out, but they could be, severely traumatized by something. Like maybe somebody pulled their pants down at school or did something horrible and they're just like traumatized and embarrassed. Something online could be happening or something even bigger. Somebody could have hurt your kid. They could be hiding an injury or something. Like just check in with them and make sure it's none of those things. Where was I? They could have an addiction like drugs, video games, or perhaps they're starting to be interested in porn and self-pleasure. We talked about that. They could have body issues like eating disorders, or severe disorders could be affecting your kid. They may need direction like bipolar, manic depression of any kind. The most common side effect of any of these things are suicidal thoughts, behaviors, shrinking away, being a loner, not talking anymore. These are, a lot of kids that are self-harmers and suicidal. They're not actually wanting to die or wanting to hurt themselves. It's a relief to cut themselves. They're finding, or harm themselves in some way, they're finding a relief. It's a self-punishment, and going to counseling helps them realize that they don't need to punish themselves with anything. And that's common with eating disorders too, because I had an eating disorder myself as a kid. It's a self-punishment sometimes, and a mental part of it. Especially, I spent a lot of time alone when I did have eating disorders because I was either hoarding food or trying to throw up. I also didn't have a lot of energy, so I was sleeping a lot. Depression, you also sleep a lot. Teenagers naturally just sleep a lot. They could be tired. Just check in with a professional, especially if it's affecting their life, if it's affecting them not having friends or being late to school or being not being able to control their emotions. Nobody needs to live that way, and they don't need to be on medicine forever or be on medicine at all. Sometimes just going to talk to someone who isn't your family member is helpful, who knows how to help direct you. They don't have the tools in their box to get through it, and sometimes you as a parent don't either. And when that happens, always seek a professional. There's nothing wrong with getting help for yourself. There's nothing wrong with getting help for your kid. This world is crazy in general, and mental health starts as a child. We should be checking our kids' mental health just as much as we check our own. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope your babies are okay. And just, the best thing you could do is get to know them. and always let them know and remind them on a daily basis that you love them, that you're there for them, and there isn't anything that they could say that's ever gonna, make you turn their back. You got them.